All right, I think we're recording. All right, let's get some music going. Like so, something chill. We'll try this copyright-free streaming music, see if it's any good. Already kind of checked it a little bit. And looking at the PM session, which is gonna start here shortly. Seeing what we can find, what's going on. Interesting price action. Where are we at? So I want to do this. We're a minute away from the 250 macro. Or did I say that? 1250 macro. Here's our launch session. High and low. Came back down to midnight opening price and took a whole bunch of sell side. So super interesting. I want to zoom out a little bit and see what it all looks like. So here on the 4 hour, let's see what levels we have. This rejection block, this fair value gap, consequent encroachment got retested on that fair value gap. Gosh, but it did make some equal highs. Look at that. So we got some equal highs. Where's the 4 hour levels? And see what else we got. And then down to the downside, we have the BISI right here. And the inverted volume imbalance, which I've noticed that price really likes these volume imbalances, kind of like BPRs, really respects and responds them. Curious, any SMT, and I actually changed my chart setup up a little bit, so I'm still playing with the dual chart system. Let's turn this off. So we do have a 4 hour bearish SMT right here. Where's SMT? There we go. Which is real significant.
Why must I be tortured again by all this?
What else do we have going on? We did have a bullish SMT earlier this morning, I thought, right there. So that bullish SMT is smaller than this bearish SMT. So that to me feels pretty significant for more downside. And with that bearish SMT in place, and this unmitigated fair value gap, I'm kind of curious if we turn down now and come test this zone. And then figure out what to do. Do we reject and go higher? Or do we come through, continue on lower, which is more likely, in my opinion, because the higher time frames are still bearish. So let's see here. I want to put that on another folder so I can have it more obvious to me. And I keep these charts up here on the right screen, and it's kind of being a little laggy. I don't like that. So here's this 4-hour fair value gap. And that way when I look over here on this chart, just kind of a reminder what I'm thinking. Like so. On the 1 hour, looks like I had this BPR marked out. I'm guessing this is going to close as an inversion fair value gap. And that then we have a change in state of delivery and or a breaker right here. I'd consider it a bearish breaker. Low, high, lower, low, higher, high. So it's a high probability breaker. And given that it took a high or took a low, made a high, and then if it takes that, it'll be a high probability breaker. So kind of anticipating that. On the 1 hour, which makes sense, we have all this trendline liquidity down here. And then on the 15-minute, we have an inversion right here. And a close below. Making that a bearish breaker. So here, I could see it come retest this inversion and seek further downside possibly. So leave that on the chart. Make that a little less obnoxious. Back to the main chart. All right. So let's zoom in a little bit again. So looking at the midnight open, the blue line here. Now the way the morning traded, it traded up into the 1/3 ADR and roughly 2.5 standard deviations of Asia. I got to readjust these numbers because it's actually 1.5 to 2.5. Got to readjust that. So that to me, I don't want to go to the 1 minute quite yet. I'm thinking about like the daily candle. Starts to feel like the wick of the daily candle. So here's the manipulation of the wick. We're back down to the opening price. We've flipped midnight opening and we'll continue further to make the body, which is in alignment with what I saw on the 4 hour and the 1 hour. So let's do this. I'm bearish. PM session here. And it's going to lock that so it stays. We have no red folders, so it's possible that the PM session doesn't do a ton. Session. So this is obviously we're already almost there, and this is what I was eyeballing prior to recording, was the Asia low and equal low, which was just taken. So the question is, how far down does it go this afternoon? And if it is indeed bearish, I would imagine the 1/3 ADR would be kind of a minimum target, assuming it keeps moving, which is also not far above all of these equal lows. So I'm going to call this the I'm drawing liquidity 1. And then drawing liquidity 2 is these equals. And really, that's that lunch session low. So that's another high probability target. I'm gonna make a new folder. I got a ton of drawings from the AM. So we have a weekly low, 1/3 ADR. This zone is my first drawn liquidity, and that's PM session low, so that's also relatively high probability. Equal lows were taken. This is it's consolidation being flipped. You can see Asia and London consolidated all night, which is really nice. Oh, not an opening range gap. I need to relabel all my things. Flipping this original consolidation. Another bearish confirmation for me. All right, we tapped into the daily high. Maybe missed it by a tick or two. I'd have to look at it on another chart. Yeah, missed it by like probably a tick or two. So at least on MNQ. So let's see here. So then. What happens? Now, I feel like we've had this huge one-sided delivery. So the 9:30 Judas was all of this from, gosh, 6 a.m. So, all right, 9:30 is right there. So this whole thing was a Judas to me now. There was kind of a internal Judas at 9:30 to take a little bit of sell side to complete the higher time frame Judas. So we had a strong one-sided delivery up, strong one-sided delivery down, especially look at the lunch session. That kind of to me is indicating a little slower today. Apparently I need to work on drinking my coffee. Get me booted up. So with that strong one-sided delivery, I feel like two things tends to happen when that takes place. More often than not, I feel like it kind of then just peters out and it kind of does a PM consolidation. Though it is possible. The other thing I feel like I tend to see is you get some means of a retracement, maybe into this original consolidation, and then just continues to dump. So those are the two thoughts. I'm trying to figure out which I think is more likely. It is Tuesday, so is this Tuesday high of the week? Possibly. Let's go look at something else. Over here. Not that chart, right here. So here is midnight Sunday and the weekly open. We have Monday and Tuesday, the weekly candle. Often Tuesday or Wednesday puts in the high of the week. So somewhere in here, and then we continue, and then it continues further down. That's a pretty significant SMT. Is that going to cause the weekly reversal? I would probably want to see a bigger SMT, but I can take a look at that. Let's go back to that chart. I'll leave that there. I want to come back to that. I wanted to go to the daily. Hmm. 4 hour. 1 hour. Let's see. I just put the ADR indicator back on here. Kept it off for a while. I've kind of been playing around with the indicators I'm keeping quite a bit lately, which is why there's so many of them, checking things out and trying to figure out what really works for me, but keeping it simple at the same time. So whereas this SMT, I wanted to look right here. We have a higher high, lower high. So there's a bigger SMT. So that to me makes me feel like this potentially could be the high of the week with that kind of SMT. And especially if I see that on YM. Same thing. Yeah. MES. I'm going to mark that on my weekly chart too. That's big. Big double bearish SMT. For sure, to me, it will likely, I guess it's a double, it's a contradiction. For sure, most likely. For sure, most likely. Yeah, you can't say that. You can't say for sure in trading either, right? High probability of sending price back down into a discount. Which on the 4 hour and marked out. I'll leave that volume imbalance. I don't like it getting too cluttered, but that's not the worst. I'll be able to decipher that. So let's look back down the 15, see what's going on. We're actually almost outside of the 1250 macro, which didn't sort of offer to set up. Let's see here. Not really. Maybe on the 32nd. Yeah, it was on the 32nd. No, is it out of macro? It's in macro. Is a continuation. If you were confident that it was going further to sell side after taking this liquidity right there, I probably wouldn't have. I would have seen these relatively equal highs, probably would have expected it to have come up into them first before continuing down, but order flow is pretty dang strong. You can see down close candles, resisting up close candles.
Oh, it's late.
And pretty aggressively. So in this order block right there got retested. This one got retested. So yeah, pretty heavy order flow. Wanted to look at the gold block levels ranges too. We're outside of macro. So with the gold block range, the 729, I think it is. Yeah. Came up into the high, grabbed some liquidity up above the extension level, sunk down into equilibrium, didn't even play around on the equilibrium of that range, and just kept falling. Coming down into the low, so the extension level lines up with the draw on liquidity. And then the Hopla ranges, which is just gold block, looking at it a little differently. What's this, the 243? I mean, just look how price really loves the gold block levels. There are people, some who claim that it's as close to the algorithm as you're going to get is the gold block levels. Power of 3 numbers, creating dealing ranges. All right, we don't need the ADR. Is that trading view loading slow? So, what to do? Well, my first draw on liquidity was met. Oh, I guess this is my first since I started recording, but I had that in my mind a little while ago. So now let's look and see what PD arrays on what time frames could potentially provide support and resistance. So on the 15, already plowing through that fair value gap on the 15. Still have only 1 minute on this fair value gap, so it's going to invert that likely. Tailless candle right there, which was already taken. And then this fair value gap, which is also target one, so don't need that there. One hour volume imbalance. Label this stuff. Start mixing time frames and PD arrays. I start labeling them. That way I just can't keep it straight, and sometimes I don't want to organize them in folders and click on and off folders. So those two are really on top of each other. Don't feel like I need both of those. 15-minute fair value gap is sufficient. Let's look at our hourly open. So the 1 o'clock candle, 1300, open, high, low, and we'll have a close on that. So this is really just like this trending profile. Pretty easy to get in on. Curious if we have any SMT starting to form down here. On the 15-minute, I was feeling like it might come back up and retest the inversion and then come back down. Was my thought. Right here. So it came back up, it wicked up in, didn't retest the inversion. Order flow was too heavy and just created a fair value gap, a SIBI. Right there. And just sunk. There's 1 minute fair value gap right there. The 15-minute closure, I did want to kind of take a look and see if there's any SMT at these lows. Nope. Nope. So, wouldn't personally trust any bullish response, but who knows? It did take major sell side, and that to me, more often than not, will elicit some kind of bullish response. Retesting into this consolidation, this breaker. So really I could call it either. I'm gonna call it a bearish breaker because I prefer that. Don't like this track. Chill Hop Cafe. Lo-fi chill hop. It's funny. All the names: Chill Step, Chill Hop. Let's turn off the lunch session. Not that indicator. Don't need the lunch session highlighted. So 1 minute SISD right there. Now, is this fair value gap going to hold? Coming up on a macro, which we follow the pattern. Would expect this to hold bearishly, but this is also where, if any reversal, I would expect after liquidity has been taken into a higher time frame level, 1 hour volume imbalance, 15-minute SIBI, so far holding. And then on the gold block ranges, we're kind of in between on the 2, 4, 3. So kind of would expect further downside in that regard. On the, see, the 81 ranges don't even really matter in this kind of volatility when we're getting multi-thousand tick daily candles. Like today, where NASDAQ's already at a 3,200 tick range for the day, and it's a compression candle at the moment. Like, look at this. So the 1 day candle right here, 3,200 ticks, and we can see the upper wick likely forming, and then the next to no body. I would expect expansion down, forming a body, and then a retracement back up, forming the tail on that candle. Maybe I should draw that in just to remember. That. From my estimations. Come back and look at this later. Was I right? Was it wrong? I don't think I can line it up. It's one or the other right there. All right. So that fair value gap on the 1 minute here is held resistance. SISD failed. Well, I mean, it did its thing. You could have got a 1-to-1 out of that if you trusted it. I wouldn't have, but you know, gosh, look at that. Even that 1 minute SISD had 290 ticks and 240 a max stop loss, 140 probably where I would add a stop loss. Crazy. So the 1 o'clock candle, power 3, open high, distribution, retracement, taking out buy side, continuing down for what, the low? Maybe. Kind of watch. I like to watch the candles form sometimes. So yeah, I'm not seeing much at the moment. Just waiting. Some kind of stop hunt and then distribution lower kind of thing. All right, what else do we see? What else do we see? What do we got going on the left here? Turn off the hourly opens. Make this a little cleaner. Where was that breaker? I forget. Right there. I'm curious if there's any other first presentation fair value gaps from earlier in the week. Up there, first presentation fair value gaps. Oh, we do have the PM opening range. First presentation fair value gap too. So let's take a look at that. Still haven't fully figured out what I like for the opening range high and low. Was it 130 to 2? So we haven't formed the opening range high and low yet. Here's yesterday's PM session opening range high and low. So we are in a 120 to 140 Hydra macro. Or is that other indicator I wanted to check out? Invite only. Was this one here? Turn off some other things. Keep it a little simpler. So yeah, that was the first presentation fair value gap from yesterday, right here, for the PM session opening range. Interesting how price responded to it today. I didn't really have anything else right here that I saw. because it's below that 15-minute fair value gap. So those first presentation fair value gaps seem pretty significant. Price really likes to respond on them. So I can even add that like so. And I can do away with the indicators. See, it's where I get so many indicators sometimes. It's like I like the Lux algo for the opening range and how it displays it. I actually want to take the deviations off. I don't typically want that. But I like how it displays the opening range, but it doesn't provide the first presentation fair value gap. Whereas this other indicator by FX for Living, it does provide the first presentation fair value gap right there. But I don't like all the rest of this gibberish on my chart necessarily. And I like the shading because I use lines for certain things and shading for other things. And I don't like how it highlights the beginning of the lunch macro. And then I think it highlights the ending of the lunch macro, but I like how it highlights the first presentation for value gap. So similarly, like the gold block, there's the, I don't even know how to say that, Promukai indicator, which is, I like the idea of lows and highs and ranges, and it helps me kind of contextualize up and down. Whereas the Hoplau ranges, they're the gold block levels, but they're not contextualizing high and low. So I kind of look at it all, and I need to simplify it down is what I need to do. But this was a previous session. First presentation fair value gap. Maybe I should have a separate color for the PM.
You just got to realize that everybody's going to be on your tail from 5 o'clock until the day you die.
I'll think about that, but for the moment, I'll make it like darker for the PM one. Just to annotate it, because I'll have another first presentation for value gap, say that 10 times fast, from 1:30 to 2. So we've just now started the afternoon opening range. So that would be what was yesterday, 4-7 p.m. first presentation fair value gap. So I don't think we had a lunch raid. which would be a run on stops and then either. So looking at this a little more zoomed out, just trying to contextualize this whole thing for me, where AM rally and then a decline runs on stops from the AM session, could run that stop and then continue. That's not what I think is happening. I just think it's AM rally, lunch decline, and then possibly PM consolidation. Anyway, either way, I don't have a 1 minute setup. Yet, 30-second. What time are we at? 1:35. We got this inversion, possibly. Little volume imbalance down there. Mini order block kind of thing. It could be a mitigation block, I guess. Although this is more significant. That's like on the 30-second time frame. So yeah, that confirmed as a inversion fair value gap. Closed back above this first presentation fair value gap. I don't think it's necessarily bullish, but just grinding down lower and lower. So closed in that gap. It's not going to be a today's first presentation fair value gap. And it looks like it wants to invert the inversion. Volume imbalance right there. It came down for that. Cleared it a couple times. Pull that target off. Well acquired. This is where I start getting a little like sketched out. All this liquidity up here. There hasn't been a run on the buy stops. And you get this one-sided delivery, and for me, I feel like, I'm like, dang, it needs to come up and do a stop hunt. It needs to take out liquidity up to there and then continue on its way. But in all of this, there hasn't even been a 1 minute stop hunt, which would make me feel a little more confident that it was going to continue on down. But I mean, how many points was this? How many ticks was this? It's a 2,500 tick. Lunchtime decline. Oh, I could check for some SMT. Nothing I see. NQ didn't trade below those, didn't trade below those. Could check YM, which is slightly less correlated than ES, but I still like to consider it, especially lately. It's been a good indicator when there hasn't been SMT with ES. Same thing right there. No, no SMT. Oh, I just noticed one of my watermark. There we go. Patience pays. Just want that right now. A little less on my chart. So no SMT. This is a higher time frame, 15 minutes, 1 hour breaker. Let's see here, nothing else in here. So I'd see that as a 1 minute breaker, bullish breaker. To me, that's more like a 30-second breaker, but you got a low, high, low, higher, high. And that would confirm that as a breaker. The question is it the reversal I was talking about or not? We still don't have fair value gap for the PM opening range. Without any SMT, I feel like this would be the stop hunt I would be expecting, coming up and taking that high or that high, maybe even these highs somewhere, and then continuing down. So maybe I'll leave that right there, just a little prediction. What PD arrays do we have above it? Nothing on the 15 until the breaker and way up there. So that's a balanced price range all the way up into here on the 15 minute. Could use the 5 minute too. Flip this 15 minute. So that's an inverted inversion. I don't know if it'll hold, but we do have this 5 minutes BISI. SIBI, excuse me. I'll call it a SIBI because it does that on the screen. 5 minute. And there's a tiny 5 minute inversion right in that fair value gap. I'm not going to mark that. Super tiny. They matter, but I'm not going to mark that because it's below this first presentation fair value gap. So confirmed 1 minute breaker. It's not my model for a breaker and inversion, but it already provided it looks like it'll do a 1-to-1. So if I market it in roughly here on close, below the breaker, that's so huge, 400 ticks. Here's a 1-to-1. Where's one? I wouldn't have done that. I probably would have assumed the 15 minute fair value gap would have been my stop. So 1-to-1, that would have played out, but it didn't have any SMT, so that would not be adhering to my rules. Well, still defining that, I guess. Because in my rules, I say I can take partial risk if it's missing one criteria. But I feel like SMT is one of those. It should be like no SMT, no trade kind of thing. So trading back up into the 15-minute breaker, retesting that. I only looked for a bullish SMT. I didn't look for any bearish SMT forming. Nothing yet. That might be the PM first presentation fair value gap. No, yeah, look at that. This indicator uses blue for the PM. Don't know why it's showing. Oh, there's a volume imbalance. Ooh, there is. That's pretty sweet. That indicator includes the volume imbalance. So, sure, I'll just copy that for now. Make it blue. I wanted gray, but I wanted the midline to be blue. Dark blue. 4-8 p.m. first presentation, fair value gap. I feel like sometimes the trades I don't take are the ones that play out, you know, like this one. Not that I was on top of it, because I wasn't expecting to take a trade right there along. So here we have a stop hunt and inversion. Tiny inversion. Browser slowing down a little bit. Didn't give a, gosh, yeah, little liquidity sweep. No bearish SMT, although there is a higher time frame SMT, so that's where I would have considered that. Now, here we are flipping the PM, first presentation fair value gap in 20 seconds. Be the kind of thing where I would consider it. Got a lot going on in here, I know. Got this 1 minute fair value gap, a SIBI forming, and close below. I would have marketed in, targeting these lows, for sure 1-to-1. Just noting this for me. Although I guess it wasn't, I wouldn't have taken that. So I'll just... How do I want to annotate that? I don't know. Figure it out in a minute. I don't know if TradingView is just being weird. inverting, coming up and testing this fair value gap, this SIBI. Oh, we came down to the gold block low. Wish I would have noticed that. Kind of feel like more buy side should have been taken. It was so close to these relative equal highs. Close below, or not quite a close below. But a significant candle nonetheless. So here, I'd be trailing my stop. Bullish response on that candle. Took that liquidity. Kind of just floating around in this 15-minute fair value gap. I didn't check to see if that short was in macro, which it was not, so I wouldn't have taken that. Or I would have on this candle, probably would have been a limit order. And I would have waited on the, I would have placed a limit order on that candle right there. So I would have taken that. The inversion would have been a 1-to-1 play. I feel like this is going to come back, and I think the original stop was right there. But I had moved it to above this candle, reducing some of the risk, assuming mean consequent encroachment, mean threshold. I forget which it is. Blocks versus the mean threshold is for the blocks, consequent encroachment is for the inefficiencies. I would have moved my stop further down into the fair value gap. Just wanting to probably go higher up at this moment. Because on the 1 minute retesting back down into this breaker. Now a fair value gap in a swing is a higher probability fair value gap, but there's no SMT, so I wouldn't necessarily be interested in longing right in here. So there's an L. Short L. Guess I can leave that on the screen. I'll look at that later. Just consolidating around that. First presentation fair value gap. Flipped it once bearishly, flipped it twice bullishly, or second time bullishly. Fair value gap still holding. Look at that starting to come down. So my original stop loss was above the fair value gap. Oops. Reset chart view. I don't know why sometimes it disappears. Like you click on it and you can't reset the chart view. And then you got to sit here and manually do this. But that was the original one. And it's not wanting to move. It's not sure what it wants to do. Time distortion. All right, I'll shut it down here. My lunch is ready. I don't want that to get cold, and I'm not really liking what I'm seeing. So, time for a break, rejuvenate, refresh. Come back a little later. No trades taken. One call was an L. One quote-unquote call. I wouldn't have taken it, but that was a W. Interesting how that works out, huh? All right. I'm closing it.